Hello again. Welcome back to another live Paper Pioneer commentary with myself and my partner Jay. And these two decks are creative in very specific ways, Jay.
Well, yeah, one of them uses a card called Indomitable Creativity, which is very creative,
hmm
and the other one is Rats, which is creative because it's not a deck you see around that much in Pioneer.
No, but it's an interesting take on it. So when the Rat King, one of the big cards in this deck, came out, a lot of players were playing mono black rats. Which fair enough. There isn't rats in any other color. But the
Really?
Golgari rats runs Coco, and
Isn't
that's
is
always
weren't we talking about in a previous match how white Greasefang is?
well. Greasefang may be white, and there's a reason this deck is not called Abzan rats, right? Or Orzhov rats, okay? But right now, Golgari rats, and because it uses a card called Collective Company, a 4 mana instant that could look at the top six
Six.
cards, get 2, 3 or less mana creatures, and every rat in deck is 3 mana or less, right? Or at least the relevant ones you want to hit.
Yeah,
It's a
agreed.
it's an
And
absurd
usually
ending.
usually you want to be hitting the Rat King Caramonics off it because when that ETBs, you get to look at, I believe it's the top 4 cards of your library and put all rat cards, well, all rat creature cards into your hand. And here we see a turn 2 pack rat. Now this is an exciting card.
This was the original Rat King for a while, wasn't it?
It was. So it just dies to a burn spell, but that's alright. So its power and toughness is equal to the amount of rats you control. But you can also pay 3 mana, 2 colorless and a black, discard a
Mm-hmm.
card from your hand at any time. This can be instant speed. You don't need to tap the pack rat to do this. And you create a token that's a copy of pack rat.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can
and
remember
here
back in the day.
it was so good. So here we see Carimonyx, and he gets to look at the top 5 cards. Sorry, not 4. And you see
Mm-hmm.
that he reveals what was that? A pack rat, another Carimonyx, and I believe a Nashi from Kamigawa.
Okay, and that's one of the few things as well. Like the Rat Ninja, you sort of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reference here, but a lot of these ninjutsu cards do have relevant abilities. Nashi, for example, has the ability to just sort of play the top card of your opponent's deck, and creativity doesn't have bad hits for a card with that mechanic.
That is true. That is true. I think we have seen the power of Carimonic. So, they've played 2 rats this game, 3 lands, and they still have 7 cards in their hand. Well, now
Yeah,
they have 8 cards. They've got just a full grip. It must be so hard to deal with just so many cards.
yeah, but the creativity player is playing a blocker down, so he's aware of the ninjutsu because it had to be revealed. So there is potentially a play around by just using the token. Like the one thing with creativity is that it doesn't need to win on its earliest possible turn. It can wait because its win con could win at most stages of the game.
And here we see Ninjutsu.
Okay, so the creativity's opted not to block. All right, completely ignore the last thing I said. But
Yeah. So now
these
they
are
can play these cards by using their life total, correct?
mm-hmm,
So
yeah,
they can play Piper
and
of the Swarm and an Impulse if they want to. Although if they play that Impulse, they will most likely have to discard to hand size.
I believe they only play one of the cards.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, yes, that is true.
But the Piper is a another. So he's not himself a rat, but he gives all the rats menace, and this is where suddenly the deck had a little bit of like the deck like rats has like in a slower game, a bunch of rats with menace suddenly it's just gonna win, right? Because you can't block them all.
Agreed. And Menace also pairs quite nicely with Ninjutsu. Because if you
Mm.
have any creatures unblocked, you can always Ninjutsu in Nashi.
Yeah. So this deck, despite being a bit of a meme, really has so much synergy built in. And the creativity deck is sort of commencing into the game plan there, right? He's attacking, making that treasure. It's gonna bounce off the Piper because it's a 1/3. But like I said, creativity doesn't need to win on its earliest possible turn. It can wait. It can sort of build up the targets. It can try to control the board as best it can, and eventually it will just get there off the back of its
It
combo.
it looks like they chose to take 2 damage
Okay.
instead of blocking. Now they could be worried about something like a spike field hazard, or
Mm,
potentially they think there's a 2 damage burn spell. I'm not too sure,
yeah.
but what they had in hand was a volcanic sprite.
So an interesting sequence of decisions here. He might have a Spikefield Hazards, which may have prompted the attack to make use of that spell, but the decision to not use that burn spell before combat to sort of just guarantee the 2 damage is interesting.
I think if there was a block, they could have potentially instead used Prismari command, which does deal 2 damage
I
and
see.
allows them to either filter or create more treasures, which is
Yeah.
important because they do have that
Mm,
indomitable creativity in their hand.
yeah. And I believe this is still the creativity. Oh no, this is the Golgari Rat's turn, going in for the attack, and it just landed again. So,
Getting another Mutavault. I do think that this Rats deck, I mean, we can see that it's not able to deal that much damage that quickly.
mhm.
I think this deck ends up being really good against fair decks. So we're talking about other creature decks, maybe mid-range decks. But anything combo, I just feel like there's no interaction in the
Mm.
rat deck apart from the discard rats. But you know, they don't do that much, especially against a deck like creativity. So I
I,
think
I
this is a really hard matchup for rats.
Yeah, I am in knowledge that the rat deck does run abrupt decay as a
True,
removal option in
true.
in its main. So although creature heavy, it's not without its non-creature payoffs.
True, true. But in terms of combos, the biggest combos now are is it creativity and Lotus Field and maybe Neoform
Mhm.
Attractor. So I feel like, Abrupt Decay, Fatal Push, the cards that they may have in their deck, um, aren't interactive enough to really hinder their game plan. Whereas, compared to something like Thalia in mono white
Mhm.
humans, there's no card in Rat's deck that can slow someone down as much as Thalia does, for example. And I think that's one of the biggest weaknesses is that it has such a bad matchup against combo.
Yeah, and the creativity deck is cycling Magma Opus. Now, this is an interesting card, as we may see not a unique target. So, creativity in this instance is not running what we would know as the Worm Xenagoth combo. It's
And
actually
then
running Capricious Hellraiser.
and what does Capricious Hellraiser do?
So, when it enters the battlefield, you randomly exile 3 cards from the graveyard. You then pick a non-creature, non-land spell, non-land card from among them, and you may cast the copy. Now, Magma Opus is a massive payoff for a strategy like this,
Yeah,
right?
Magma Opus, I believe, doesn't it? You get a 4/4 elemental. You get to deal 4 damage. 4 damage separated out amongst any number of targets, and you get to draw 2 cards. Right?
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty insane.
and we do see here that what's happened is the Golgari player has decided. So the other player has ended their turn. And I believe this is an end of turn Coco, which, as we discussed, the Coco is very good in a creature heavy deck like this because it just generates. Oh, he's done it during the combat step.
Yeah, to be able to kill the Goblin Shaman. And that
Mm,
pack rat is huge now.
yeah, massive. But we do see creativity come down.
Yeah, and
Travel
one
is.
of the benefits of the creativity deck not playing Worldspine Worm is here they can creativity after combat.
Mm,
They'll go get their payoffs, and their
yeah.
payoffs can still run away with the game without having to be pre-combat and without having to go to combat. Because one thing I
Mm,
don't know if you've watched many creativity games, like for example Duke at the Pro Tour, sometimes he's missing that one artifact or that one creature that could be a creativity target, but he's got the Goblin Shaman, and it would just feel so much better to be able to attack with a Shaman, make a treasure, and then creativity.
Yeah.
But the Wild Spine Worm combo deck can't really do that because they want to creativity and immediately attack.
Yeah, that's true. So it's a pre-combat combo which can be played around possibly. And here's the thing: the rat deck right now, nice board state, and there's a Magma Opus. So Magma Opus could potentially deal the damage it needs to sort of reset the board in favor of the creativity player. And these are the 3 cards, and Magma Opus is one of them.
Yeah, I think they can deal 3 damage to Pack Rat and then 1 damage to the Burglar Rat, and that would kill both Pack Rat and the Burglar Rat, for example.
Yeah.
Oh, and it looks like they're choosing to kill those 2. Oh, the Pack Rat blocked, so it had 2 damage on it already.
Yeah, so it was able to just freely kill the Nashi as well.
Yeah.
And okay, I believe what happened there is the board state of the Is a Creativity player. He had Kiki, he had 2 massive dragons, he had a 4/4 token. Board wipe at least killed some of the relevant creatures of the rat deck, and I think he just like what you said about the lack of removal. 2 massive flyers with a Kiki on the board eventually was just gonna get there. So I believe there was a scoop, and they're going straight to game 2.
Yeah, here I'm really not sure what the rat player could be bringing in to stop the combo. Presumably they're going to be scared of the combo, so they're going to be bringing something in, but I'm not too sure.
I mean, it's black, right? You're thinking Thoughtseize, you're thinking Duresses. Like, these are the standard answers in the black colors that can deal with creativity.
Agreed.
On the green side, maybe a Beseiju to deal with a token and the enchantments.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like it's just not worth dealing with like a Fable with Beseiju, because they're playing a Fable, they're going to get the 2/2 Shaman anyway, and then you're going to give them a land. Yeah, I think the way the rat player wins this is they play their Burglar Rats. I think it's Burglar Rat, right? That makes you discard. And they also play Duresses, and they just hope to keep the creativity player's number of cards in their hand low.
Yeah.
And hopefully they won't be able to get the creativity. We did see creativity show us the cards that they sideboarded.
A 2 Brotherhood's End, which makes sense. Creature heavy deck, a lot of them low toughness, or at least below 3, right? So
yeah, a lot of them 3 or below. And one big weakness of Pack Rat is, its power and toughness is equal to the amount of rats control. So if you deal just 1 damage to it and you suddenly only control Pack Rat because all of your other rats have died, then it's a 1/1 with 1 damage on it. So Pack Rat will also die.
Yeah, but one thing about Pack Rat is if it's just a board of Pack Rats, it doesn't care. And like, I remember back in the day when Pack Rat, I'm not sure about its standard playability at the time, but it was definitely a limited all-star. There were genuine limited decks that ran 39 LAN 1 Pack Rat.
In terms of standard playability, it was played a lot after the release on Theros, because every single rat token that you make had a black pip of devotion.
Oh, okay. Oh, because it was a true copy of the card.
Yeah, because the token copies the mana cost as well. So it was a way to quickly ramp up your devotion. And, if you had a Pack Rat down... Oh, and it was also directly after the provisioning of Mutavault. And Mutavault is a manland that becomes every creature type. So you could instantaneously just tap your Mutavault to activate your Mutavault, which would pump your Pack Rat by 1, which was a very cool interaction back in the day. A lot of games in Pro Tour Theros, if you were playing mono black versus mono black, or Orzhov against Orzhov, it was all about who could land the first Pack Rat and who could make the second Pack Rat.
And this is why...
Yeah, as soon as you make the second Pack Rat, it's so hard to remove them all.
Yeah. And this is kind of why I was saying Pack Rat was the original Rat King, right? It was the rat. It was the one that you wanted to see. and a card that on its own changed the game. Kind of like it's kind of strange when you see how the game's evolved now, right? Where a card like Pack Rat can still somehow get there in the right matchups.
Agreed.
Like,
Any matchup that goes long, you know, the effectiveness of Pack Rat is it makes every single card you draw off the top of your deck into another Pack Rat.
mm,
So you draw a bad rat, make it a Pack Rat. You draw a land, make it a Pack Rat.
yeah,
You draw a removal spell, but you've got no targets, make it a Pack Rat.
yeah, and this Pack Rat party is gonna overload at some point, but and I guess we talked about it a lot because this is such a different sort of take, right? Golgari Rats is not. It's obviously you'd probably see some list that people have put together for Pioneer, and we're seeing one today, but it is such an interesting archetype, and I feel like it is a couple cards away from maybe having like actual play it like you're scared to play against the rat deck, right?
Yeah, agreed. I do think Rats maybe needs like a Lord, like a 2-mana Lord kind of
Mm,
effect, because nearly every single tribal deck nowadays has a 2-mana Lord or Lord-like effect. Like I believe Thalia's Lieutenant is effectively a Lord, even though it puts counters on it instead of pumping the board.
mm. Which may be more relevant because a lot of times you just deal with the Lord, right? But
Exactly. But I just think without that 2-mana Lord, like Supreme Phantom, like Valiant Veteran, like
mm,
the Goblin one, the Merfolk one,
yeah,
I just don't think it can do that much, and I don't think the creatures get big enough fast enough. Obviously, Pack Rat gets huge, but
mm,
there are only 4 copies of Pack Rat. You can't just rely on that, and I
yeah.
feel like it's just missing a few key bits.
Speaking of missing a few key bits, though, the Is It Creativity deck has just lost creativity through a turn one duress. So this is what I was talking about, that the sideboard plan for the Rats player, because black has access to essentially hand hate.
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
possible.
And here we see a burglar rat come down and make them have to discard another card out of their hand. So turn 2 cards already gone out
Mm,
of the hand. It's looking
yeah,
good for rats at the moment. If they can
yeah.
potentially draw into another duress in a turn or two, they could be in
Mm.
a good place.
Now, interesting that they've decided to just hard cast the Nashi here.
Yeah,
I guess it.
I'm not sure what's in their hand. They may not have had another play, and I believe ninjutsu costs 4, and also the mutavault effectively blocks the burglar rat.
I see. That's true. Oh, and
And we
then it
yeah,
does
burn
take it does
spell to
pay
take
down
down
a burn
Nashi.
spell. Yeah, with spell mastery because there were two or more spells. A thing about the burglar rat, which is like speaking of ninjutsu and burglar rat, and it does come up sometimes, is you can ninjutsu the burglar rat back to your hand and just reuse that ETB trigger.
Yeah, which is good. And I believe the rat player mulliganed, and you can see that they now have very little cards in hand. It looks like they're down to 2 cards. Where
Mm,
the creativity player, I believe, is on 4 cards, and I
yeah,
think it's too much of a difference. And here they get another burn spell, and the board is just so empty for rats. They're not able to apply any pressure, and I think creativity looks in a commanding position at the moment.
yeah, and be able to filter through their deck with the burn spell as well. And a like burglar rat is great, but one damage a turn is a bit slow. And Golgari rats take on the play as well in this game. That's not the position you want to be. Like,
Agreed.
but
I believe they have a Prismari command, so they may choose to kill a rat and make a treasure, hopefully draw
mm,
into indomitable creativity. Or they may choose to draw. I believe Prismari command also lets you discard a card and draw 2 cards.
yeah. So there's a lot of things that this card can do for the creativity player in this turn. The rats player only, I believe, 3 cards in hand.
Yeah, it looks like one of those is the Nashi and one of those is a pack rat.
Well, we're singing the praises of Pack Rat earlier. It will be a 2-2, unfortunately, if it comes down now, which is just an easy target for.
Yeah, Prismari Command.
Mari command. Yeah. And so it opts to play the Nashi, which makes sense.
And here we see Prismari Command probably taking out Nashi and treasure or draw.
He is thinking about it. He is thinking about it. He
He's
opts to
choosing to
draw
draw. So what is it? You draw 2 and then
and discard
discard.
2.
Oh, and discard 2. All right.
Yeah.
So it looks like Spidefield Hazard is going. There's a Storm Carved Coast. Oh, and a Sokenzan. So presumably they will want to Sokenzan next turn.
I mean, we're nearly at the position here where hard casting the Hellraiser seems to be a play. So another thing about the Hellraiser is that its mana cost is reduced by 3 if you have 9 or more cards in the graveyard.
And it looks like they're on 8, maybe 7
Yeah.
cards in their graveyard. So
And with
they're
the
very, very nearly there. Oh, and with Sokenzan and Magma Opus, they can put 2 more cards into their graveyard.
they could, but would they want to? It's a strange position where he's not pressured, but why would
True.
he purposely
Ooh.
just
We see them play Sokenzan. They might be. Ooh.
Okay, so there is a creativity backup plan, Mutavault. Sometimes it comes out of nowhere, literally from left field, and it's oh my word. When the creativity player's best play is attack with the manland, it kinda gives you an indication what's in their hand, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not where you want to be. Oh, here we see a
Ninjutsu.
ninjutsu. So I believe this lets him
So,
look at the other player's hand. Is that one, or is this the
no.
lifelink?
This is the
Okay,
lifelink death
okay,
touch
lifelink
one.
death touch one.
And there's the interaction I was talking about, where the burglar rat comes down and it's a reusable ETB trigger. Especially in
True.
this kind of position. But I believe he's able to just hardcast the card anyway. Top deck land saves the day there.
Yeah, so Rats is just hoping that you get like 3 lands, maybe a Spikefield Hazard or something, or
Yeah.
off this
There
random.
were a few lands. So we'll see. And the 3 cards are
Oh, one of Magma Opus again. So that's going to be able to
oh
wipe the board, make a 4/4, draw 2 cards.
yeah, and the board position is once again reversed in favor of the Izzet Creativity, who only last turn was attacking with a Mutavault. But Capricious Hellraiser is a spin to win kind of card, but when it does spin and win,
Yeah,
it feels very good.
It's definitely a gamble with Capricious Hellraiser.
Oh, and he's put the card back in the graveyard. I believe that should be an exile.
Yeah, the way Capricious Hellraiser works is it exiles the cards from your graveyard, and then you cast a copy of that card. So the actual card itself should remain in exile.
Maybe that'll get corrected later. Does it look like it's getting corrected? Ooh, this could get dicey if he plays another Capricious Hellraiser.
Well, we see a Fable, so maybe their plan is to copy a Capricious Hellraiser, which could be very good with the ETB of Capricious Hellraiser.
I mean, he might not even need a second one, to be honest here.
It's just hard casting Shark Typhoon. I think this just has to be game at this point. There's nothing the Rat player can do against this.
Nothing on the board, no direct damage, no ability to. I mean, you have Pack Rat, right? But
Yeah,
what's
they can
Pack
play.
Rat gonna do for
They
you?
can play Pack Rat and then maybe discard the Thoughtseize in their hand to play another Pack Rat, survive one more turn, and then next turn make another Pack Rat.
I guess. But when you're just 1-for-1ing a 4/4 elemental, which was essentially free, so it makes the Pack Rat. They're both 2/2s. Shows them that it was Thoughtseize.
Well, I mean, he does have to show because it's a discard.
Yeah. And this chumps with a copy. Or double blocks. Is it a double block? So it takes 4. Oh, it just chumps. Okay.
Just chump. I'm not sure about chumping. I mean, none of these things are good here. But I mean, you want to be trying to get your Pack Rat.
Yeah.
A high enough power and toughness that it can just eat an elemental.
There is and a Sharpedo representing a Shark Typhoon Shark token in this position
Yeah,
with a
and
Goblin token.
Yeah, we see a Fable here, and that makes a 3/3 Flying Shark, a 2/2 Goblin Shaman token. I just think there's so many creatures on the board, and it all came off of that Vicious Hellraiser.
Yeah,
and here we go. That's game.
The Golgari Rats cannot stop the onslaught, and that was a good game. Golgari Rats did what it can. I think creativity is just such a good deck. Like I said, it never needs to win on its earliest possible turn, right? Like we just saw there, he just hard casted the win condition and thankfully got it. Yeah.
Agreed. Another thing about creativity is that players will play, like we saw Rats at the beginning of that game, Duress, Burglar Rat, not getting down their threats, and they're terrified of the combo. And in the end, the combo isn't even what won. They just hard casted a big creature.
Yeah. And it's kind of like when you play Greasefang and you're over complicating or over prepared for the Greasefang matchup, is that the Greasefang deck, much like this creativity deck, there's two faces to it. There's the combo, of course, but then there's also there's some valuable cards that just could win on their own. Things like Shark Typhoon and Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So, congrats to the as a creativity deck. Very well played. Things went to plan for him, despite, the hand disruption. And I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Not much else, John. Hope you've enjoyed the video. We do post videos here 4 times a week. Like